chieftains of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, in the South have reaffirmed their support for the party's presidential candidate, Atiku Abubakar, as Nigeria counts down to the presidential election on Saturday, 25th February. Represent the views of the majority of the people in the South.
All right, as you could see there from the card, Dr. Pedro Obaseki, Director Research and Strategy, PDP Presidential Campaign Council, joins me right now. Welcome to you, Dr. Obaseki, and thanks for being on the program.
Thank you very much, Nancy. I'm happy to be here after such a long time.
Such a long time, and it's taking politics to bring you back. This is a political season, apparently. Yes. And I've been speaking to people that ordinarily wouldn't think they would be speaking to me.
Okay.
Yes, because...
But they must understand that the economics of the nation is a major problem, you know.
Mm. Yes. I did speak with the with the APC Director of Strategy.
Oh, okay.
Also, Director of Policy, Strategic Alliances and Policy.
Okay.
A few days ago, and he did also tell me, oh, Nancy, how am I going to, do this show, and all of that, his money line. And I just said, no, I needed to know what goes into the manifesto crafting, because you all sit down with the presidential candidate.
Yes.
And get his thought, I suppose, yes, and put it into writing. Now, let me start this interview by asking you, I read a BBC report a few weeks ago, and they did describe Atiku as the man who wants Nigeria to look back to go forward.
Yeah.
Is the BBC right with
well,
that description?
That is
the man who wants Nigeria to look back to go forward. Are they right in that description?
I think that was I read the article,
okay,
and I think that was a very prosaic oxymoron. An oxymoron in the sense that it's like back to the future. You see, if you look, I think what they actually meant was that if Nigerians would take a little pause and look at where we were exactly 8 years ago, you may be able to find out how to propel the nation forward. Because what has happened is that in the last 8 years, Nigeria has been propelled back more than 50 years, both in economic and social and sociological terms.
APC people would disagree with you.
Why wouldn't they disagree? APC always disagree even with APC. APC makes a policy, and another APC criticizes the policy. Another APC sues the government of the APC for the same policy that was done by an APC government that had the central bank governor who wanted to run for presidency under the APC. So we understand APC has taken propaganda to high art. They have actually elevated propaganda into another form of elevated art. But Nigerians are seeing through that. What you see, when you look at what that BBC report says, in the twilight of the Jonathan administration, of the PDP administration in 2014 precisely, there was a recalibration of the nation's both per capita and nominal GDP. And with that, Nigeria overtook South Africa as the largest economy on the continent. If you look at that and look at the purchasing power parity of the average Nigerian as at that time, today your take-home pay can no longer take you home. So there may be a need for you to take a pause, look at it and say, oh, where were we? How much was my 100,000 naira salary worth in terms of the purchasing power parity of that 100,000 naira? How many loaves of bread? I'm just making it basic for Nigerians to understand. Were we able to purchase with 100,000 naira? And you look at it today, with 100,000 naira, you would have been able to purchase 12 bags of rice. But then it was 8,000 naira. When that is what it means, looking back.
But at that time too, it wasn't also okay, Don.
No. I think
Pedro, if you just oppose it to what the exchange rate was at that time.
Okay.
I hope you understand where I'm going to.
Okay. I want to ask you. You are actually reinforcing the same argument.
No, I'm not reinforcing it.
When in 2014, if I remember that billboard, the billboard read boldly all over Nigeria, is 200 naira to $1 okay? We shall make $1 1 naira. The president now, who was a candidate then, also went on relevant media to say same thing. But today, so when you are talking about the exchange rate, is a direct factor, is a direct product of the economic activity of the state.
But so exchange rate also declined during the PDP days.
Okay, let me give you the percentages.
Yes,
No.
It declined.
See, I thank God that some of us are economically aware. At least with an MBA, I can speak. In the twilight of, at the time Mr. Abacha died, the rate, because I remember we were importing equipment to build this very place. The rate was 130 naira to $1. Go check it. By the time Mr. Obasanjo was living, it hovered for 150 naira to $1 for a period of 3 years. That is the greatest time of stability. Now, by the time Mr. Jonathan was living, it was the black market that was at 196, not the official rate. Now, if you even look at that official rate.
The official rate was hovering around 160, 165.
Thank you. Now, 160, 165. Today, official rate is 460, 461. So if you look at the percentage increase on that, there's been a 200 to 250% decline in the worth of the naira, even at the official market. In the unofficial market, as at this morning, it was 780 naira.
But Nigerians were suffering during the PDP days too, and that was why they massively went to the polls to vote out a PDP president for an APC person to come in.
No, I think I will
Dr.
Let me explain.
Okay.
No, I am the one explaining my party's position. As at that time, the overriding situation was not a situation of suffering. We have to take this easy. We shouldn't lump the history. The greatest problem Nigeria had in terms of insecurity then was a sectional Boko Haram insurgency in the northeast that led to Jonathan proclaiming a state of emergency. It did not spill over there was no Zamfara, there was no Kebbi, there was no Edo, there was no kidnapping, things like that did not exist. Number one, that is but Nigerians were shocked by the propensity that even took place in the first place. Number two, it wasn't the economy that was in doldrums. It was, in fact, the perception quotient given to corruption. If I remember clearly, the highest protest that was held during Jonathan's time was actually the raising of 87 naira fuel pump price, which led to massive Save Nigeria protest because the man had increased it to 123 naira or thereabout. I remember that 2011 December.
Yeah.
And
to January.
Yeah, to January. It started 2011 December into January. And if I remember clearly, the man had to reverse himself. Okay. So which means that in spite that you had a listening government, you had a government who, for raising the thing by 30 naira, we went back to the old rate at a point where Ragoli's pure water bottle was costing, which is actually 50 cl or half a liter, was costing more than a liter of fuel. Now let's come to today. Today, officially in the pump price, is already more than 150% more than where Jonathan left it at 87 naira. So if we look at all the coagulating indices, is it the normal? Let's just look at rice. Look at a loaf of bread. Look at a bottle of Coke. Let's not look at the macro. Let's look at the micro. And if you look at all these indices, you will realize that Nigerians, we made a humongous error. We were victims of gross, almost psychosomatically involving propaganda. So, that is why we are here today. And to date, the APC is still lying to us. And the worst part of the lie is that they feel comfortable with it. So
you're saying as at pre-2015 that the economy was not a factor why Nigerians went to the polls to change not a factor. No. A PDP administration?
No, please. Let's go back and look at it. Let's look at it. When Nigerians were angry with the PDP, the major person, the major fulcrum, was Desiani, if you remember clearly. And then the biggest banner, the biggest pillar upon which APC rested their campaign propaganda was that we had a clueless president. That was the recurrent word, clueless, clueless, clueless. So we thought, oh, Mr. Buhari was voted in as an anti-corruption crusader, messiah. That is the truth. But we now realize, immediately he got into office, even from body language, that this president wasn't ready to govern.
Okay.
That is the truth of the matter.
Now, let's go to another matter, because
Yes.
we're talking about the BBC report, and I'm glad you said you read
Yes.
that article also. There are also criticisms concerning what Mr. Atiku has been saying, or even what his manifesto is all about. I spoke to a few analysts, economic analysts, very resounding ones at that, and they criticized this manifesto, Atiku's manifesto. If we have that, we can put it on the screen. What we've done on the show is to summarize the key points of Mr. Atiku's manifesto. They told me, Nancy, Atiku's manifesto is perfect, but 4 years late. That there are new problems now. That it would have been good for a pre-2015 time. What's your response to that? And let me also add this. I'm taking your words that there were no deep and linkable introspection with the manifestos. So respond to that.
Wow. Who did that? That
I've been speaking with a lot of people.
I thank God that I am not a novice. I just thank God. And I understand that manifesto back to back. What the manifesto puts forward are 5 dynamic, very broad dynamic points. And those 5 points are interrelated. They link each other dynamically, because his first point is unity, even within our diversity. Because you cannot create, there is no pathway to economic growth amidst insecurity, amidst falling, broken down social relationships. What creates wealth is an enabling environment for wealth to be created. And that was number 1. Number 2, we looked clearly at the economy. The hunger quotient in Nigeria has gotten to astronomical level. And there must be a seismic paradigm shift. And if you don't educate Nigerians, when I say education, education is not basically going to primary school or going to secondary school. No. It cuts across board, because even the Google that you using
that
now
was talking to
are
me.
all products of an educated social infrastructure. And that is what Atiku based everything on. And if you look at it, insecurity is linked. Then our current federation, which is a recurrent decimal particularly since the first, what do you call it? Since the first coup in 1966. So if you have to look at all this and you draw a graph, the graph will be a law of diminishing return if you don't take all these things into consideration. And for you to do that, he has said we want to raise both the nominal and capital and the nominal GDP and the GDP per capita.
I'll come to that.
We will raise it to 900 billion and raise the per capita GDP to $5,000.
Yes,
it was $2,000 just as at the time we were putting together the manifesto in 2022. But today it has fallen drastically, even worse than that, because right now more than 90 million Nigerians are living below the poverty line, are living below $1.90 a day. More than 90 million. Why another 133 million as at December 2022 were declared multidimensionally poor? These are not figures coming in from the PDP or even from Nigeria. To the extent that the National Bureau of Statistics, which is the ombudsman and the repository of the nation's economic progress, has said it all. Nigeria today is experiencing a seismic shift, an astronomically undefinable inflation rate. Nigeria is our paper of our naira is almost competing now with what it used to be in Zimbabwe. So we have to sit down and look.
Is that not an exaggeration?
That's
an exaggeration. Because in Zimbabwe, a paper you had 100
I'm not even looking.
or even $1 trillion Zimbabwe notes.
I'm not even looking at the number of zeros in it.
Yeah.
They have.
In Zimbabwe, they don't even use their currency anymore now. They use the US dollar, the rand, and some other South African currencies.
That's what I'm saying. At the rate we are going, you are here sitting. I'm sure every half of the monies you have is not domiciled in the naira now. Many people are doing that because the naira is not even available.
You can't say so.
No, you have to be available to use. No, let me give you an example. This one is even, I happen to be an IDA. I am one of those, I'm a licensee of the Nigerian Communications Commission. And we have a license we call IDA, International Data Access, for telephones into Nigeria. Nigeria, NCC had now told us to start paying in the dollar to a Nigerian company, to MTN, to Glo. They have dollarized, even though that is against the CBN Act, where transactions between local companies cannot be dollarized. It's called the dollarization and subsidization of the naira. So our legal tender, how legal? When we are looking at a situation where an APC government brings a fiduciary pronouncement, a policy that says we are changing the color or the design of the naira. He says, okay, this design of the naira, these are the dates and the timelines. And then an APC state government, a subnational, decides to say, no, we oppose. They didn't stop there. They went on air to openly challenge.
But the APC people will reply you. This is not
no,
an APC
program. Are you defending the APC?
No, I'm
because
telling
you keep referring to the APC as if the APC is your fulcrum.
No. I had them on the show last week.
No, can you? Were you asked? I watched the show.
Yes, I was asking them PDP side. Yes, no. Pedro Obaseki, watch that interview.
I watched it.
I asked the AP. This show is not about.
It's even good you are asking all these things so that Nigerians see all this difference.
Now, let me tell you, this is not an APC show. But if you watched very keenly last week,
yes.
The person that I had was Barrister Ismaili Ahmed. And in fact, there was a time that I asked him and he felt a bit uncomfortable with my questions on the show. And he was like, he told me, oh, Nancy, I don't want to be intimidated with you on the show. He said that last week. Where I'm going to really is that for things you're saying now about APC will come back. I am saying now what I was told in sense that they will say, okay, they have internal democracy amongst themselves, so they can fight themselves.
Don't excuse the APC. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm not
excusing them. I'm bringing all the matters to the table.
Listen,
so that you can respond.
Before I'm a PDP person, before I'm a director of strategy for Atiku Abubakar's campaign, I am a Nigerian. And in the Nigerian market, where I buy and sell, where I purchase and get supplied, is the same Nigerian market I think you also are. And I can tell you today that the PDP, which I am a member of, did not design a currency. That the PDP did not appoint the central bank governor. That the PDP...
Jonathan appointed Godwin Emefiele, then President Buhari kept him again for a second term. Yes, that's what happened. I think you are here to defend the APC. To the extent you don't even want me to talk. I'm giving you facts now.
It's not be fact.
But that's what happened.
Did Emefiele run for presidency of the PDP?
Was it President Jonathan that appointed Emefiele?
Madam,
I just wanted us to have facts, Dr.
No, madam. Listen, maybe I understand now why you should allow me to talk.
Okay,
because it is not your duty to talk what I am yet to say. There is no act here to tell the mine's design or the mine's construction on the face until I say it. What I'm saying is clear. Everybody in Nigeria knows that this is an APC policy. Everybody in Nigeria knows that the APC has become the major opposition to the APC. That every Nigerian knows that Buhari is APC. And every Nigerian knows that Tinubu was the leader or is the leader of the APC who claimed to all of us on public television, I'm not forcing it, that Naim bring Buhari. We all of us know, as we so speak, that the only major opposition among all the 18 parties that are running in this election to the APC programs for this election or during this election cycle is the APC. We also know that the APC governors or the governors that had gone to oppose this policy, which is okay, is also the APC. But what is not okay is for the Central Bank of Nigeria, who are the custodians of the fourth instrument of the Nigerian nation. The others are the flag, the emblem, the national anthem, and then the currency. These are exclusive and cannot even be adjudicated on the concurrent. Now, this man goes on air and declares within his own really restricted domain that the currency that has been declared illegal tender, that is what it is legal within his own domain. The only thing by law is called treasonable felony. So that is what it is. That's what I'm trying to make you understand. Now let's come back to Atiku's own, please, so that I don't get bedeviled, so that Nigerians know what Atiku has for them. I am a product of education. You cannot move a people forward if you don't raise their brain power upward. That is what Atiku is saying. And that is, it is tangential to whatever we do. Atiku also said, which is a pillar. So I'm wondering where your analyst, and maybe the analyst, I don't know.
I wish I could play that back.
I hope the analysts are not paralists.
I will send them to you.
Okay, I won't mind.
Yes.
He based half of the entire thing on on PPP, on public-private partnership. Now, let's look at it easily. What are the things that have drawn Nigerians backward on the macroeconomic scale? Our over-dependence on a single source for foreign exchange earning. And that is one, oil. Number two, the oil is not a problem as it is in the management of the oil therefrom. Both in the upstream and downstream sectors. What Atiku had been singing, he was actually vilified in 2019 for even daring to broke that idea. But that was an idea. If you say, okay, that was 2015. But in 2022, the federal government of Nigeria borrowed a leaf, but a badly implemented one. I remember clearly in the statement, I think it was on Liberty TV, Mr. Buhari, General Buhari then, before he became President Buhari, went and said they shall build one new refinery every year. He went on to calibrate the amount of 100,000 barrels per day, 150. I still remember that interview. Today, not one of the old ones is functioning, and of course, no new one has been built by the government. What Atiku said was very simple. If you privatize or you sell off those dead assets, which have become a size pool on Nigerians. Nigerians, you understand the economics of scale that is involved in oil generation, both downstream and upstream sectors, upstream and downstream sectors, power generation, whether hydro, whether renewable energy, whether gas, or when you put all these together and you look at the Atiku Manifesto again, you said the BBC, I will refer you to the latest edition of The Economist, which was published on Tuesday, this very Tuesday, a week ago. And it says clearly that for all of them running, the only one that seems to have a clear-cut pathway in repositioning the Nigerian economy is Atiku Abubakar. Because Atiku straddles the entire value chain. He straddles our value chain either in the private sector, he straddles the value chain in the public sector, in governance, in social relationships. So when you are doing that, and he has a belief in strengthening, which is key to me, Pedro, in restructuring this country, so that we will stop this, our skewed federalism, where the federalism is only written on the front page of our constitution. So these are, now, with that, Atiku has also told us of how he will handle the fiscal, the fiscal federalism, which is very key, by devolving to the lowest strata of government, or tiers of government, the state. And I even quote him, said he thinks that the resources within the states should be kept by the states where those resources are domiciled, while paying taxes to the federal government. Not stopping there. He also created a paradigm whereby other states that may not be able to meet up in terms of what their own inner resources are not left behind in the development value chain. And how do you do that? Let's go back to 1966. Prior to 1966, Nigeria had a federal revenue sharing formula that was 30, 20, 50. The originating state or region that had the resources keeps 50%. That is why Awolowo could have done all the Cocoa House, Bemudia, Midwest region, what man's name again, in Michael Okpara, could have done what they did. That was why Ahmadu Bello could have taken over and produced something at least that looked rememberable. Since 1966, why 30% goes to the federal government, to the federation account, sorry, and 20% to the federal government. And by the time all of them contribute 20% to the federal government is still rich. But today, every 56 kobo in every naira in Nigeria is in the National Federation account controlled only by the federal government, while the remaining 44 kobo is devolved among 36 states and Abuja and 774 local government areas. So by all indices, you will realize that this was a fiscal structure that stood on its head. And he wants to change that. And again, I'm happy you just put up something now.
Yeah.
The concurrent interventionist foreign exchange policy. How is that a problem? It will always give room for buccaneers, for currency pirates, for fraudsters, because when you have a dual or triple exchange regime, the only way your local currency can go is down.
Okay, let's talk about some other issues in the manifesto that were very striking, and I'm also wondering at the realization of those promises. You mentioned one earlier, which is raising GDP per capita from $2,000 to $5,000.
Yes.
It was there. Also, the manufacturing share to GDP, 30%.
Yes.
Then, Mr. Atiku has also, at different forums, spoken about $10 billion to the SMEs.
Okay.
I would want to know, because I've not also heard him specifically, or perhaps I missed that, where that money will come from. $10 billion to MSMEs.
Yes.
This is a country right now that is on a debt level of 44 trillion naira currently.
Yes.
But ways and means of the CBN at over 23 trillion.
Yes.
If that debt is securitized,
yes,
Nigeria's debt will move to over to 77 trillion naira.
Thank you.
This is a country that is in a myriad of a lot of economic challenges. So I'm wondering where Mr. Atiku will get $10 billion if elected on Saturday, if elected, and is sworn in May 29.
Yes.
Where will that come from? And he's also, okay, take that, then we'll move to something else.
Okay. Now, access is asset. I will start from there. Now, if you look at all these hopla, $10 billion, what is $10 billion for a Nigerian economy?
$10 billion times 461 naira.
That would be like 40.
Official
Yeah,
rates,
that would be like 4 trillion naira. Okay. How much was our 2023 budget? Now let's look at it clearly.
21 trillion naira.
Okay, one man in Nigeria, one man, his name is Aliko Dangote, is worth almost 5 times that amount. Check it. Check your Google there, check them. You see, as
Aliko is about $12 billion, 11 to $12 billion.
Yes. Okay. Now, if you look at it from that angle, if you look at this from that angle, you look at what are our dead, dying, or moribund assets. We have four major refineries, all turbined, moribund, dead. And then they are not just zero value now, but because of the fact that all those employed within the same are being paid, Nigeria is advancing deficit financing of the Nigerian oil sector. So the very offloading of such dead assets, of such, let me use the right economic term, moribund, unproductive assets, because government has little business in business. I'm sure if you do your MBA, that one an MBA 101. So when you look at it from that angle, you say, okay, where is this money coming from? How do you, about 2 years ago or thereabout, my brother, the governor of Edo State, went on air to say that Nigeria was printing money. Was printing money indiscriminately. That is, CBN was printing money indiscriminately. You have used now the technical term. Ways and means. What it just means that central bank will just enter central bank, carry their mint, just they print money without a correlating tie to the productivity or the GDP or whatever parity that will bring that money is worth.
They were borrowing the federal government.
So they were lending the federal government money. So the banks are being owed. The central bank, via ways and means, are being owed in 20-something trillion. When you add it to the 44 trillion, which is borrowed funds from external forces outside of the federal government, you benchmark it against where Jonathan left off at 11.2 or 11.9 trillion, you will see Nigeria has borrowed more in the last 8 years than Nigeria had ever done since the year 1914. Because our collective debt from the day Nigeria became a name up to 2015 is 11 trillion. And we now have 66 trillion in the last 8. As someone who is on television doing money line and telling Nigerians about what their economic situations are ups and downs, I think you are having nightmares when you sleep.
I do, actually.
So we have to tell ourselves the truth. For us to be able to kickstart the economy, it needs an automated fuel injection.
Now the question is...
And that fuel injection, I've just told you where some of them will come from.
In terms of privatization. Now, that is
Number two,
thing.
let me also give another one, which Nigerians are not looking at. You see, in Lagos State, unfortunately, they did it to the detriment of Lagosians. In even the Obasanjo also did it with the Murtala Mohammed Airport 2. Murtala Mohammed Airport 2 by giving it to a concession company. Lagos created the Lekki Concession Company, which we hear, I don't know. It's also owned by Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Now, when you involve the private sector in infrastructure development and create a co-ownership whereby the government does not have open exposure, that is, the government capital exposure is reduced to a bare minimum, and then you make it run like a business, all you have is extended economic activities, and you have spin-offs and spirals and auxiliaries, which will now fuel that economy. That is what it is. It is macro, and Atiku knows it end to end. And the only way you can look at it is, this is a man who understands how to suffer. He's a product of suffering. The only child of an uneducated farmer. The only child of an illiterate mother coming out from the backwaters of Jada in the highlands of Adamawa. And now I am sitting here, a prince of Benin, defending his belief in my commonwealth. There must be something. So what we need is capacity, capability, and ability to reach cross-border handshakes and be able to galvanize the economy.
Okay.
Because economic activity is based more on trust, body language, belief, than on any other thing else.
Now, I'm looking at our time and we'll have 5 minutes to go.
Oh, so it's not
this
I feel it tough for you till next year.
Now, this same analysis which you've given me about where Atiku will get the money from is the same thing that he's been criticized upon. In terms of he will sell Nigeria. He will privatize the whole, he will sell us off. That's what many Nigerians. Then there's another comment coming in now on Twitter from our social media. Ostensi Besto is saying on Twitter, PDP and APC na twin. I guess that's it. But
let me. I think I will just
selling off assets.
No, I know. I will first of all talk that one first quickly. The PDP is the singularly most bastardized, dastardized part of this country. We are victims of the APC's almost narcissistic propaganda. We are the first frontline victims. You bullied us out of power by feeding Nigerians with stories where their take-home pay won't take them home. The Nigerians are here today because you understand that the fastest trajectory this nation has had as a nation was under the PDP, whether it was under Obasanjo, where he was able to remove and zeroize our foreign debts, both the Paris and London Club debts. The PDP were the only ones who were able to bring on board persons who understood how to run a country, even if it means poaching people from Konjoiweala poaching the what's the name of the additionals to this country. But today, look at it. We have square pegs in round holes and pegs that are not even defined, and big pegs running this country. Where the best of us, where the worst of us today are ruling and lording over the best of us. But the PDP wasn't that. Number two, let's look at the selling of Nigeria. Another propaganda of the APC. A propaganda, you know, when you lie and lie and lie and lie, sometimes that lie now takes on the garment of truth. You've traveled abroad. The biggest, one of the three largest petroleum conglomerates in the world, Aramco of Saudi Arabia. Or let's look at the one of Brazil. They are listed on the United States, on both the FTSE in London, the Dow Jones, and they are listed in the New York Stock.
Saudi Aramco was not full stop. Saudi Aramco, what the Saudi Arabians did, they just sold, I think, about 2.5%. They sold it was so lucrative, then they sold another 2.5% to get money.
To get
money.
To get
yes, money.
To get. I know that's the me.
To get money now.
I am telling you that the biggest oil conglomerates in the world, even including Rosneft of Russia, are listed in stock exchanges. Is Nigeria unlisted anywhere? Okay. And yet we are the 8th or 9th largest oil producers in the world, and we are number 5 or number 6 in OPEC. But all the 5 ahead of us are all listed on the stock, including Venezuela. That is a problem. We have to look at it and now look at it. The time Nigeria decided to liberalize a key sector, the ICT sector. When I was growing up, everybody in my neighborhood, they come Obaseki as they won't come make phone call. Today, that was liberalized and is the fastest growing. I can tell you that as of January 2022, only MTN declared 19.6 billion. Now let's look at it. When you do that, there are spin-offs. That's what Atiku is saying. Okay. That we have to make sure tangential, important, but moribund assets are given to private investors, with government holding nominal shares and earning undisturbed revenue from same. And that is it. Instead of plowing money into a cesspool, if I say we throw away our money for well. Okay. That is what the NNPC is. So those who are saying Atiku will say Nigeria, the thing Atiku based that on today, the APC government of Buhari has just done it. But unfortunately, we don't even know how they calibrated the shares. We don't know how those shares were offloaded. We don't know who are the private ownership. But he said, I will do it public.
Okay. Now, 1 minute to go because my director is talking to me. If you say Atiku checks all these boxes, why does your party, as the director of strategy, why does your party think that Atiku will be triumphant on Saturday?
Only Atiku,
just less than 1 minute.
Nigerians, only Atiku has a direct pathway to victory. The others are sectional leaders. Only Atiku. Even when you hear their people speaking for them, almost everybody speaking for Mr. Tinubu may be Yoruba. Almost everybody speaking for Obi may be Igbo. But I'm a Benin man. And I'm an Atiku apostle. I believe in the Atiku gospel. And when you look at it, Atiku, when you look at it from even the last poll, which is one of the most credible polls we've had so far, has shown a direct pathway to victory. And we will beg Nigerians not to waste their votes, because sometimes if you vote for some of, and every other person running anyway, outside of Mr. Tinubu, is PDP. Okay. Our PDP vice presidential candidate in our last election is Peter Obi, and our PDP Kano State 2-time governor and Minister of Defense under the PDP is Kwankwanso. Okay. So a vote for any of them is actually a vote to reinstate the APC in power in a first-past-the-post for 3 or 3.5 horse race.
Thank you very much, Dr. Obaseki.
I'm very grateful, and may God bless your show.
Thank you.
I watch it every time. I even adopt some of themselves so that I know where to invest my money.
So that you know where to get your statistics and analysis from. So I'm indirectly a teacher of a doctor.
But I was this teacher's teacher once upon a time.
But of course, you are learning now from.
I started learning from you when you were standing on the parapet at the stock exchange in 2008.
Many years ago.
Yes.
Thank
God
you
bless
very
you.
much,
Thank you.
Dr. Obaseki. All right, that's the much we can take on today's edition of the program. I've been speaking with Dr. Pedro Obaseki, who is the Director of Research and Strategy, PDP Presidential Campaign Council. We've been looking at Atiku's presidential manifesto, but like I said at the beginning of the show, it's not the end. Tomorrow we'll be having NNPP on the show, and perhaps they will try and convince Nigerians why they may be the best choice. But it's Nigeria's choice on Saturday. That's the much we can take at this time. I am Nancy Naji. Be the best you can be and be the change that you want to see. The news is up next.